Welcome to the FNO InsureTech podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsureTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome to the latest edition, the first 2026 recording.
Yes.
Of FNO InsureTech. Yes, we're very proud of our name and of our history. Aren't we coming up on 300?
Yeah, 300 is like a day away. How many years have we been jibber jabbering?
Oh, that's right. This is actually our birthday also. This might be like our birthday episode.
It is.
Let's see. 19 to 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. We're 7 years old, dude.
7 years. That's insane.
That's unbelievable. How is that possible?
I have no idea. I don't know how in the world we kept this thing going for that long.
Especially since I'm only 6 years old. Or maybe my brain has the equivalency of a 6-year-old. One of the two.
Well, that's probably true. But think about all the guests. Think about all the people that we've talked to. All the amazing conversations, all the knowledge that we've gained that we didn't even know existed over the past 7 years.
I'm still trying to figure out that 2 + 2 equals. I just can't figure that out. But
1 + 1 = 3.
But we have learned a tremendous amount. We've met. Here's the big thing. We've met a remarkable number of fascinating people, right?
Yeah, I would say just a couple of weeks ago, you and I were brainstorming on the number of people that we've met. The names just kept rolling off, and our network has grown, and it's been great. It's been great,
right? And today we have a guest who kind of has some similar credentials to what we do, for an entirely different reason. Right?
Been around, and we got them through our network.
That's entirely true. Thank you, Adam Kostecki. Stacey Brown, not the Stacey Brown who works at Alacrity with us. Stacey Brown, the founder and president of InsureTech America, formerly known as InsureTech Hartford, is our guest today.
Yeah, we can't wait to talk to Stacey about what's going on, his journey, where in the world did this idea come from, and then we're going to spend a lot of time on his upcoming symposium that's going to be happening, when it's happening, where it's happening, why it's happening, and then after, we talked to him, and then he gave us a little insight into the conference, and it's sure going to be an exciting time. So yeah, I'm very excited about that one.
As two jamokes who have attended a bazillion conferences, big and small. It looks like this one is going to be really interesting and really good and organized in a way that should be valuable.
Agreed.
To people who have interest in the innovation side of what's happening in insurance, which of course we do, don't we?
We do.
We do innovation.
That's
our thing. That's our thing. In fact, I'm not going to give anything away, but my friend Lee Boyd is kind of leading some major innovation at our company Alacrity right now, and
a lot of innovation going on right now. A lot of exciting things.
There's 2 letters that have to do with that. One might be an A, and one might be an I, but I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, obviously not. But I will say there's some exciting things happening. Exciting things.
2026, folks. Big year. Big.
It's a big year. Big year.
Big. And let's start it with a big podcast. Stacey Brown, founder and president at InsureTech America, and the guy who innovated and is putting on the InsureTech America Symposium coming up in April. Hey, everybody. We're here with a special guest who we've wanted to have on our podcast for a long time and are thrilled to have him here today. Big shout out to Adam Kostecki for his help in arranging this. We have with us today Stacey Brown, the founder and president of InsureTech America, formerly known as InsureTech Hartford. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, Stacey.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Lee. Good to be here.
Excited to have you today.
It's nice to have you. Are you in Hartford today? Is that where you reside?
In Connecticut, but I don't live in Hartford properly. I work out of my home in a town called Colchester, Connecticut, which is about 30 minutes outside.
Okay,
City.
a suburb, you might say.
It's a suburb for sure.
Cool. Well,
How wonderful.
before we have all kinds of questions to talk to you about, both about your organization and also about your upcoming symposium that you're getting ready for. But let's tell everybody, what is InsureTech America? What do you guys do? What are you, a company? Are you a nonprofit? What are you? Explain.
So InsureTech America is a community of communities. So it all started. First off, it's a for-profit organization. It's all set up as an LLC, but it all kind of started by accident, based off of my passion and drive to just be a part of the InsureTech movement when it started forming in 2016, 2017, and so the idea is really to help drive innovation in the industry. And, that's my goal, is to be making an impact on insurance. It's something that's done really well for me as a career and allowed me to have a great lifestyle and raise some wonderful kids. And so I want to give back to the industry. And the best way I can see to do that is by leveraging my 20 years experience as a tech guy in the industry, was to help other tech companies and help the insurance industry innovate and change through tech. And obviously we can see, the advances in AI over the last, let's say, 3 years, now has really been driving that at like a very fast pace.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So what a community of communities, what do those communities do? They have symposiums. I mean, what goes on in your organization?
It's a lot of events, right? It's about bringing people together to make connections and form ideas and take those ideas places that wouldn't happen ordinarily, right? So for me, for example, I spent a lot of years working in the industry. And all I really, really knew was what was inside the four walls of my organization. And that's where my focus was for most of that. I'd say for 15 years of it. I went to an occasional event or conference, but for the most part, I was super focused internally. And when I went outside into the outside world and started attending events more regularly and started hosting them, it really changed my perspective. And I thought I knew a lot about insurance from working in the industry for so long. But once I got outside those four walls of my organization, I realized I didn't know much about how the industry actually worked. And I'm happy today that I have a lot more knowledge and experience from doing this. And so that learning that I've experienced through engaging at a community level and industry level is a big part of it. So we do a lot of events to bring people together, right? And also innovation doesn't happen when one person is operating on their own. I mean, it can, but it's harder. A lot of innovation happens when chocolate and peanut butter come together, right? Like, you remember those old commercials, the Reese's peanut butter?
Yes.
Two people walking around the corner, they bump into each other. The chocolate bar falls in the peanut butter, and they're like, "Oh, this is actually pretty good." So, we try to have we like for that to happen as much as possible, and events could be very unstructured, where it could literally be that random, but sometimes they could be structured where, we have specific topics that we're focused on, specific types of people that we want. So those events might be smaller, but they're more impactful, right? So, but mostly it circles around events. Personally, I do a lot of investing and advisory work as well, but I don't have a fund, right, other than my own funds.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way in which I'm different, I'd say.
So you said that you've done a lot of learning by getting outside of your four walls. Take a second and share a lesson or two that has been important. It sounds like relationships are maybe a cornerstone, but please tell us.
Well, definitely, my network is exponentially larger than it was 15 years ago, right? And that's just had to do with getting out the door and going to these places and meeting with people and shaking a lot of hands, attending a lot of happy hours and just getting to know folks. But what some of the things that I've learned, like, what's the difference between, a captive insurance company and an MGA, right?
Yeah.
Probably for a lot of people, that's like, duh, that's an easy one. But you know what? I worked in the industry for 15 years and I couldn't tell you what that was.
Sure.
Right. And so
you're not alone.
That's just like a low hanging fruit example of, things that you thought you knew the industry. I knew it very deeply in areas where I was focused. But it's a very large and broad industry, right? All the different business models and way things work, even like, is it an MGA or is it a wholesaler? You know what? Even the experts can't tell you that answer, right? So it kind of depends, because you got wholesalers that that start buying MGAs, so they've got MGAs in their practice, but then you've got MGAs that turn into wholesalers. They do wholesale business too. So there's a lot of mud in some of these spaces. Captives versus retention groups, and there's so many different ways in which the product is made between insurance and reinsurance. The product itself, whether you're talking about things nowadays like parametric insurance. One of our good friends is Sam Broomer, right? He's leading the parametric division at Norman Max, and he's got a whole new outlook on parametric insurance. But going back to the product itself, right? It comes in a lot of different ways and a lot of different permutations. A lot of ways for it to get to market, and then a lot of ways to acquire customers, and that's just everything I've talked about right now is just on how we get premium in the door, right?
Right.
And the whole service side of the industry. And like, I led the claims IT organization for a number of years in a large multinational carrier. And I thought I knew a lot about claims, and I guess I knew a good amount, but there's a lot in that space too. There's a lot of tech innovation, as you guys are probably aware, being that it's your space as well. But there's always, and there's, no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn. I've yet to run out of things to learn.
So let's digress for a second and talk about how this thing started, and so
that's what I'm
not only us
in.
but our listeners can understand how InsureTech fill in the blank organizations work. You founded this in like 2016, 2017. And did you ever imagine that it would get to where it is? And how was it that you did it? Did you just say, I'm founding it? I mean, explain the story and explain
I'd love to hear the story.
How the organizations work.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a story I've told before, but it's always fun. And if I go back to like 2015, 2016, I was working in a carrier and people started talking about digital and insurance and disruption. Investors were starting to put money into tech companies that were saying that they were going to disrupt the insurance industry through technology. The word InsureTech hadn't even really been created yet. And it was just, new tech and things like blockchain, right, was considered new tech. IoT was new tech, right, back in these days. And somehow or other, the people in San Francisco with all their money and high tech acumen were going to come in and start, disrupting. And, Lemonade, and, they came in with like peer-to-peer insurance as a business model, and B corporations and benefits. And like there were all these, buzz terms back in the day. And I was like, this is really cool stuff because they're talking about disrupting insurance with technology, and insurance and technology is what I, at that point, had spent about 15 years of my career doing. So I said, this really interests me. I want to be a part of this somehow. But there was nothing to be a part of. And it was this simple. I was walking out of this downtown Hartford. We used to have this little shoe repair guy. He was awesome, right? His storefront was right in the base of the Travelers Tower. And I walk out of there one day, and I just looked up at the building where I could see my company's logo, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm doing it. I don't know what it is, but I'm doing it. That's exactly what went through my head at that point. All I knew was I wanted to be a part of something. I had no idea what it was going to be. I walked into this place. It was like Hartford Innovation Center or something like that. And I was like, what is this place? What do you guys do here? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I'm a college student. I'm just here for now. Here's my boss's business card. Maybe you can call my boss, and my boss can answer your questions. So that wound up leading me to another person, who eventually connected me with someone who was launching this place called Upward Hartford, right? So it was a co-working space, kind of like a WeWork of Hartford. And I remember, and this was before they officially opened, and they asked me, well, what you want to do sounds great. Because all I really wanted to do was bring people together from our industry to talk about how these startups were going to be disrupting us. And she's like, that's great. What do you need? I'm like, well, I need space. She's like, well, I've got space, and this is great. So because I knew I wanted to have an event. It was hard to figure out how to put one together because every restaurant in town, it was like, well, you got to pay us $1,000 for rent in a private room. And then here's our catering menu where everything, you got to buy by the dozen, drinks are $12 a piece. Right. And just like, I'm just a dude that wants to bring people together. I'm not going to put like $3,000 of my own money into this. Right. And so when she came out and she was like, yeah, I've got space. What else do you need? I was like, pizza, I don't know. I know nothing about doing this. And so that's kind of how it all started. I had someone to sponsor and give up some space. So then I started reaching out to people that I knew around the industry. Because at that point I was in insurance for about 15 years. And in Hartford, we have a lot of insurance people. There's not a lot of insurance companies, but there are very big insurance companies. So people I knew, if you stay in the industry in Hartford, sure, you don't have to move. Everybody moves. And next thing you know people over here, people over there. So I started calling, friends of mine and saying, we should get together and talk about this stuff. I've got this place they're willing to give us space. And that's kind of how the event scene started in Hartford. And everyone was like, Stacey, it was a great event. How do we do? When's the next one? I'm like, I don't know. Now, next thing I know, I'm planning another event. So it started on like about a quarterly basis, right? And the events just kept getting larger and larger. The excitement was building. I think our last event before the pandemic was a record breaker. We had like 130 people. It was a record breaker for us anyway. And then the pandemic hit, right? And so up to that point, everything we had been doing was local to Hartford because that's where I live and work. I'd say it was around 2017 when we actually gave it the name InsureTech Hartford. And there was some other stuff starting to go on in Hartford that I was also a part of helping get started. And we wanted to have an incubator in town, and they wanted to call it Hartford InsureTech Hub. I'm like, oh, that's going to be really confusing with InsureTech Hartford. So I went out, and probably one of the smarter things that I did in it, because I wasn't very structured about this at all. It was a side hobby passion project. But one of the things I did was I went and filed the trademark for the word InsureTech, and wound up getting that approved. So
you actually have the trademark for InsureTech?
Yeah. So
for the word InsureTech?
The word InsureTech. Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations. That was clever.
Right. And so I'm going to tie this in to something we talked about previously. So the main reason I did that was because I didn't want anybody coming along and telling me I couldn't do what I was doing. Right? It was self-preservation, really. But then the pandemic hit, and we could have, that Hartford InsurTech hub. They said, "Oh, pandemic. We're gonna have to shut down the program." And I kept going. I said, "You know what? I know we can't get together anymore, but we're going to go online." And that's what we did. So we went online, we started running online events, and we went from having, 130 people at our event to 500-600 people. And these people were like all over the world, right? This was like tapping a vein, the right place at the right time. While the pandemic was really hard for a lot of businesses and it should have shut me down, I pivoted, and that actually kind of took the brand to a whole another level.
Wow. So that gave you exposure far beyond the confines of Connecticut.
That's right.
Because I'll speak for myself and Lee. We heard about InsureTech Hartford a long time ago. We've been doing the podcast since 2018, 2019, and you were that was already around.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, we weren't first. If I accredit anybody, I'd accredit the InsureTech London guys, right? Like they were the ones that they were
Matthew Grant,
Matt and Robin. Yeah,
Matt and Robin. Yeah,
like the first guys, and it was me watching my colleagues in the UK going to these InsureTech events that said, I want to be involved in something like that, and so I started organizing events here in the US. And there was a group that I think they ran an event before I did up in InsureTech Boston, which has since, gotten like they had a startup that got acquired, and now Ivans owns the InsureTech Boston brand. And once a year they have an Ivans themed event that they call InsureTech Boston. So, but that I'd say that they were probably the first ones in the US to use that term. But I actually to use it commercially, but I was the one who actually trademarked it. And so when I had this thing, we decided to call it InsureTech Hartford because, well, here we were. And then other people started, following suit, right? So there was, InsureTech LA, InsureTech, Denver. I remember I met David Gritz. He was
InsureTech New York.
Yeah. But before he started InsureTech New York, he was working with, I'm trying to remember, SVIA, the Silicon Valley Insurance Accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
I met him out there at one of their events, and he was running the startup program for them. And I learned that he lived in New Jersey. I'm like, well, what are you doing out here when you live in New Jersey? Why don't you do something like back home? And so in the early days, I think he hadn't even met Tony at that point. And so, but in their early days, we helped support them, told them what I was doing, what I knew, helped promote their stuff. And they were also, were really helpful at getting word out in New York about the stuff we were doing up in Hartford. And to this day, we're still very, friendly and collaborative. In fact, David and I run a ski trip each year. The next one is coming up at the end of January. I'm not sure when it's air, but it might be done. It's investors and founders only. This is the 5th year of it. We even did it in Verbier, Switzerland one year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And this is like things that I've learned because of InsureTech, right? I learned how to ski. So when David, it was David's idea that he wanted to have an event that brings founders and investors together on ski slopes. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. Why don't we do it together? And he said, you want to? I said, yeah. Now all the only thing I have to do is I have to go learn how to ski. Because even though I've lived in Connecticut and grown up in the Northeast my whole life, I had never skied a day in my life. So
you got to start at the beginning, right? You got to learn somewhere.
Yeah. And so I did. So I learned how to ski. And that's kind of how that all.
What a wild journey.
Yeah.
You never expected this out of your 2017 run, right? You never thought it would take on a life of its own.
I didn't have any expectation. I just said, I'm doing it, right? I looked up at the building and I said, there's nothing going on. I want to be a part of something. I'm doing it. I'm making something happen. And there's absolutely no script. There's been some pros and cons to that approach too, because some of the folks, like they had specific reasons why they wanted their communities, right? For some of them, like the guys I mentioned up in Boston, like they wanted, it was kind of like a marketing engine for their startup. And I think there's been a couple, communities I've seen where that was kind of the motivation. David and Tony in New York, like they wanted to be VCs. That was their ultimate objective, and they're successful at that today. I'm happy to be an LP in both of their funds. And, there are other people like out in Ohio, the InsureTech Ohio guys kind of got, I'm not quite sure what started it all, but they wound up getting big support from Jobs Ohio, which provide them resources to be able to, get their organization going while they were maintaining their own full-time jobs. So, there's a lot of different communities out there, a lot of different stories behind them.
Speaking of that, how did you? But you're more than Hartford. You started a few other ones, correct? And
right.
And now they're all together under one banner.
Yes. So, and that was kind of the buildup that I was getting to there with, there were these communities that, I watched kind of grow up. There were some communities that started and then kind of disappeared. They did one or two events and then disappeared. Like I think I saw that happen with InsureTech New York, actually. I saw that happen with InsureTech Chicago and probably, a couple others. And, but in 2023, the organization I was with, things, changed. We got bought out by a French parent, and, I was the offshore help, right? And the bureaucracy levels started to increase. I didn't have the autonomy that I enjoyed, but you know what? I had all the autonomy. I had enough autonomy to shoot myself in the foot with the InsureTech stuff that I was doing. I was like, you know what? That's a lot more fun and exciting. And so in 2023, I just kind of pivoted out of the corporate world and said, I'm going to focus on this stuff. But what did that mean? I didn't even know. But I had a friend, Nalay Doshi, out in Chicago, and he's like, Stacey, how do we take what you're doing in Hartford and do that out here in Chicago? I think it's great. And I said, you know what? Let me help you with that. So as opposed to some of the other communities where I was kind of advisory and given a lot of insight to, and kind of helping, a little bit on a consultant basis, I guess you could say. But it wasn't mine at the end of the day. I was just there giving out, free advice. And this time I thought, you know what? Let me be a part of it. And let me stay a part of it. So I said to Nalay, I said, let me help you with that. I have connections. I have a base to start from. I have years of learning at this point. Let's do it together. And that's kind of how it started. And then we went on in 2023 to also start working with some folks down in Atlanta. And then in 2024, there was more interest coming from other areas. So we ultimately went to Boston and launched InsureTech New England. So we couldn't call it InsureTech Boston because there was already a Boston group there. That wasn't really a group; it was more like a brand, right? So to avoid confusion around that brand, we launched InsureTech New England. And then we started taking a more regional approach. So we had, friends down in the Carolinas. So we launched InsureTech Carolinas. And we also had some friends down in Florida. So we launched InsureTech Florida. So now we had these 6 communities, and there's all this confusion in the marketplace, right? Because people are like, well, is InsureTech Denver you? No, that's not me. Well, what about InsureTech Chicago? Yes, that is me. Well, what about InsureTech LA? No, that's not me. Well, so I'm like, what do we do about that? So I had managed to buy the domain InsureTechAmerica.com through private transaction, thanks to my friend Stephen Goldstein, who had his first InsureTech exit by selling me the rights to InsureTech America. So I don't know if you guys know Stephen at all. He's a great guy.
That's awesome.
And so now I had this domain. I'm like, what am I going to do with it? And so I had all these communities. I said, you know what I'm going to do with it? I'm going to take all the 6 of these communities and just wrap it in this brand so that we can now know if it's not supported by us, it's not a part of InsureTech America. And so really, it doesn't change the business model. It doesn't change what we're doing, and we're hoping it doesn't take away from the communities. But I think it helps kind of clarify that we're this collection of communities, and it allows us to do some cool things. One thing, for example, is we used to sell sponsorships per community. Now you can sponsor InsureTech America and get exposure to multiple communities.
Broadly, yeah.
Yeah, that's smart.
Sure. There's other things like events that we can do. We've done some cross community events online, and so there's more in the online space that we think we can do. We've for this year, for 2026, we're rebranding the symposium that we started in 2019 as the InsureTech Hartford Symposium. We're rebranding it now to the InsureTech America Symposium, because the growth of all these communities and the expansion of our network over time, it's far more than just Hartford, right? I would talk with people at large, corporations, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, we already do business with the guys in the Hartford area." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. We're more than just trapped in the Hartford, right? Like there's a big network that we have here." So I think the InsureTech America brand is coming at a good time for us. It's more representative of the network and the access that network has. So
it seems like you're going to be able to do some really cool things with the symposium. And so are there new things that the audience can look forward to? Kind of how is it changing now that you're bringing all the communities kind of under this big umbrella?
It's always been an evolution, and we've tried out a lot of new things over the year. And one of the cool things is when I do things and then I go to other people's events and now I see they're doing them too, right? And, one of those things was our content studio, right? So we launched the concept of content studio originally in 2024 at our event at Mohegan Sun, where it was really just about, for a small fee, you got to use our stage and stuff after hours to create pictures and videos of yourself, presenting and things like that.
That's cool.
And in 2025, we pivoted to an actual studio. So we created a space that was in the main area, and it was enclosed in a see-through material. And so we had, different media companies and podcasters and stuff using the studio all day. And because it was in a high traffic but low volume location, it caught a lot of attention. And so for the people that were running content out of there, it was easier for them to find people and guests and stuff. So it was just something that was kind of new. And then, I went to in June, last year, I went to another event, and I saw that somebody took it all to the next level because they had a lot more money to spend on it. It was like a huge building, all involved, all plexiglass all around, and everyone's walking around with wireless headphones and stuff. It was, really, they definitely took it to the next level from a build out perspective. But we want to leverage. We had a lot of success with that, and the people who participated in it really enjoyed it. So we want to take that to another level for this year. And in fact, we're going to use it to start creating engagement prior to the event this year. So
great.
Normally sponsors, most events, it's you pay your money, you to sponsor, you come in. If you got a booth, you set that up. And then at the end of the event, you walk home with your leads and you start following up with them. And after 6 weeks, people kind of forget about you, right? So we're taking advantage of our media relationships and content studio concept to start prior to the event, the stuff that happens at the event, during, and then post event as well. So we'll keep expanding on that, because we know at the end of the day, one of the biggest value props that we have to offer for people is exposure to our network. So why limit it to what's going on at the event, which is still great, but we can add more value. So who comes to the event?
Yeah,
who is attending the event? You got your sponsors, you got people wanting to do it. Yeah. Who is your target audience, and why should they attend?
There's a few different audience types, right? So I'll start with the insurance carriers, because if we bring enough insurance carriers, everybody else always seems to want to follow, right? That's just kind of the way that the industry works, right? I think events in general are always about attracting some kind of buyer so that the sellers will sponsor to be there, right? And so with insurance events, usually it's about how do we engage the carriers, and so we don't want what I've learned over time is just having a carrier there is not necessarily enough, right? Because like, let's say you get somebody who's 12 levels deep in the back office. It's great to have the logo there, but they're not an influencer to any kind of buying decisions, and they're probably not going to want to talk to you after the event, if they even want to talk to you at the event, right? So, we've learned to tune in on certain roles. And this year, one of the things that we're doing that's new and different is this content collaborative concept. So there, Adam Kostecki, who you gave the shout out to at the beginning of all this, he's leading that content collaborative this year. So there are 4 different themes, and one of them is underwriting. Another one is claims. There's one for innovation, and then there's one for tech and data. And so for each of these themes, we're looking for, we're putting together, we have established a bit of a group of people in each of these themes who these people are people who work in the industry in these roles. And they're helping us do 3 things. Number 1 is refining our main agenda. So we have our main stage, and there are a number of sessions going on. So they're helping us refine that to make sure we're getting the most relevant content. The second thing they're doing is helping us define roundtables, right? So that's something that we've been doing more of. We've had good success with, because what we find is it's nice to have content for people to passively learn and educate. But when you can have good, solid roundtable discussions where you've got basically a small group, but they're insurance people, they're all with similar roles and similar interests, the level of conversation and engagement is way higher, and they enjoy it a lot more, and they get more value of it too. So that's the second thing that the content collaborative is helping us with. And then the third thing really is more of a marketing function in terms of helping raise awareness of the quality of the content going on at our event, so that more insurance professionals will come. So we definitely do a lot to to try and stimulate engagement with the insurance carrier communities. I'm probably giving away, too much trade secret stuff here, but that's okay. I want people to know we really invest heavily on trying to have good quality content.
I think that every conference that's out there has to think about these things, and it's interesting because in just the short period of a few years, the number of options, conference options, has grown, tremendously. I mean, there's ITC, there's the big conference in June in New York. There are many, and how you differentiate yourself is not only hard, but important.
Yeah.
Right?
Man, you said it.
Yeah.
How has the growth in other events affected your group? Has it helped spread awareness? Has it taken away? Is it helping you to find your niche in the greater world? Kind of over the past few years, talk a little bit about that here as we come close to an end.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely forced us to have to continuously work to improve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we were doing the same thing year after year, we would dry up, right? Because there is so much competition out there. And it's hard to compete. I told you a story how I started all this with, buying pizza on a credit card in some space that people gave me for free. And now I'm renting out convention centers and people fly from around the world, right? So that growth, hasn't always been easy. It's not for the weak, for darn sure, because it is now a even more competitive environment than it was when I started. So,
Sure.
has it helped? I think it's both been helpful, but also been making life harder, because there are a lot of, like, nobody goes to everything anymore because there's just so much. The only thing is we're very fortunate that this is a massive industry, right? You got to keep in mind, like, global insurance premiums were like $7 trillion or something like
It's
that.
huge.
It's so,
Really?
the industry is so large that if it was a country, it'd be the third largest economy in the world, right? So it's a very, very large industry. There's a lot of ways to slice the pie, and there's still some big chunks of pie out there. So, but it is highly competitive, and we do have to work very hard to make people have reason to want to be a part and see what we're doing this year.
If people were interested in attending InsureTech America Symposium, what would their next step be?
And when is it? Where is it? All those things.
Sure.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, this year's InsureTech America Symposium is returning to Hartford at the Connecticut Convention Center on April 13 and 14. We have a website, InsureTechAmericaSymposium.com. That's a lot of things to type, but if you go to any of our community websites, InsureTechHartford.com, InsureTechAtlanta.com, InsureTechCHI.com, and then InsureTechAmerica.com itself, you'll find links to the symposium. You can learn more about the agenda, see who some of the speakers are that we're now starting to announce. And in addition, you could reach out to us at info@InsureTechHartford.com to find out more if you're interested in exhibiting or sponsoring or being a part of the event in any way. So those are all great ways to find out more and get in contact with us.
Well, I mean, I was looking through the website before the podcast. It already looks exciting. You have some great speakers. It looks like a lot of great things going. So it's sure to be another good event for you.
I believe so.
Well, and I mean, if you need like a cutting edge podcast,
that's right.
You
need some nice MCs on the stage. We're happy to help.
I'm just saying, I happen to know one. Let us know. And I mean, you have to.
Our people can talk to your people. It'll be great.
I mean, media is kind of a cornerstone, or your content studio is actually a very interesting concept. Good for you. I love that. Yeah.
No, it's definitely something we can figure out for you.
Okay, good.
I should say
we don't have to waste everybody's time with that right now, but we do appreciate taking up some of your time today and you sharing with us. I think that, you're an entrepreneur, and as I think your evidence, lots and lots and lots of people are accidental entrepreneurs. It wasn't necessarily their intention from the beginning, but wow, look what happened. And congratulations. It's a great story.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And best of luck with your future.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, guys, for inviting me on and giving me the opportunity to tell my story and tell your audience a little bit about our event and some of the ways in which it's special and differentiating for 2026.
You got it. We'll look forward to hearing from you sometime in the future about how it all went.
That sounds great.
Thanks, Stacey.
Thank you, Stacey. We typically have very intentional entrepreneurs on, right?
Yeah.
Women and men who have worked hard to create something, and they had a vision about this thing that they were going to create and what it was going to become and everything else. It isn't often that we have on the accidental entrepreneur who just kind of finds themselves in the midst of this.
Yeah. I really like that moment in time when he goes, I'm doing it. I'm just doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
Here it is.
Uh-huh.
I mean, good for him.
He didn't even know what he was doing.
That's the best part. He didn't know what he was doing, but he said, I'm doing it. And now,
I love that.
And now I think he told us this is their 6th event, right, that they've had. And it gets better and better every year. I loved hearing the story. And I would say, Stacey, right, he's an influencer in the space.
No question.
InsureTech Hartford is a name brand that we've heard for years and years, as will be the new brand.
Yeah. Takes some courage actually to take something that is, but we see it all the time. I mean, look at CoreLogic, in our own space, and that changed their name. People do that. We've seen it, with different organizations over time. It takes some courage to do that, and we wish them all the best. And we thank you for being here, and thank Israel for everything that he does. Thanks, Israel.
Thanks,
Our
Israel.
intrepid producer. And to my co-host, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And
it's almost Valentine's Day now. By the time this goes out.
Well, you had to ruin it, didn't you?
Oh, I mean, they're listening to it. They're thinking New Year. Man, you're late.
You had to. So listen, all you people out there, take care of your Valentine's stuff now. And until next time.
Goodbye, everybody.